Hi everyone, my name is Anna Gordon and I am a trainee sport and exercise psychologist currently studying at Glasgow Caledonian University. If you have heard my name before or if you have seen this topic around your golf club in the past, that's likely because I have recently been undertaking some research into a new intervention for the putting yips. And I'd just like to offer a short presentation to let you all know what we've been doing, what we found, and what that actually means for you. So this presentation will answer 5 main questions. What are the yips? If you're watching this, you may already have some idea, but I'll just give you a brief overview of a couple of main points from a sports psychology perspective. Why was the study important? What did we actually do? What did we find out? And what do those results actually mean? Hopefully the answers to the above 5 questions will give you enough information about this research and why it was important to do. But if anybody has any other questions or wants to get in touch about anything that's covered, please feel free to get in touch via the email address that's on the screen. So agordo300@caledonian.ac.uk. Okay, so briefly, what are the yips? The yips are an ongoing or chronic difficulty with a particular golf stroke, usually short game, so chipping or putting. And it usually involves both physical symptoms, so maybe like shaking, jerking, kind of feeling like you're forcing the shot, and feelings of worry, anxiety, and pressure. So it's both physical and psychological. The yips is also surprisingly common, with some research suggesting that between 28 to 54% of experienced golfers have been affected at one point. So why was this study important? At the moment, there isn't an agreed management strategy for the yips, so that means that everybody who does experience the yips is currently left without sufficient support. New ideas around what might be helpful have also recently been suggested that warrant some testing, and one of these ideas is based on a new approach called somatic experiencing. So somatic really refers to the body, and experiencing refers to how we feel emotions in our bodies, right? So how we process feelings through movement or kind of physical tasks. So what did we actually do? First of all, we designed an intervention or a strategy to test. On the screen, you will see 2 green rings. These are called the smoothie rings, and they are a tool that's used in somatic experiencing to help with that kind of physical feeling and processing of emotion. So I will now demonstrate for you what the smoothie rings task actually was. What did we actually do with these rings? So before we got to the rings, I firstly sat with the people that took part and I helped them kind of ground and feel safe in the space and feel good in their bodies. And then we started to think about what the feeling was that's associated with the yips for them. I asked them to imagine that feeling in their bodies, and then we started to move the rings. So the first task was forwards and backwards movements with the arms, 1 ring in each hand. And participants did that for about 30 seconds. The second movement was pretty much the same idea, but just side to side movements with the arms now. And then the final movement was back to the first one, so forwards and backwards movements again with the arms. Now, inside the smoothie rings, there are a few small steel balls in each. So when the rings are moved, these balls move along the ridged edges of the tube and they produce a sound and they produce a feeling. So they produce a vibration that goes through the hands and the arms. How did we actually test what effect, if any, that had? First of all, with the people that took part, I asked them to take 5 putts that were measured to see where they landed and fill in a form about how anxious they were, how worried they were when they were taking those putts. So we did that twice to get the before measures. Then we did the movement stuff, we did the intervention with the rings, and then we did these measures again. So we did another 5 putts and another form about how anxious those putts felt. The all-important slide. What did we find out? So the first main finding was that putting accuracy did not change dramatically from before to after. So although there was some improvement for some participants, there wasn't enough to make any sort of general conclusions that yes, this helped putting accuracy. We can't say that. The second main finding though was that anxiety scores did reduce, they did decrease from before to after. And when speaking with participants about why they felt that change had happened, most of them said that the smoothie rings task really helped them to feel more calm, more focused, and get that rhythm back in their body that they don't usually have as part of their yips experience. What do our results actually mean? So if you have the putting yips, if you know someone with the putting yips, if you coach someone with the putting yips, what are the key takeaways from this research for you? The first one is that using the smoothie rings might help golfers with the putting yips to feel less worried over putts. This study was the very first study to test somatic experiencing, that approach I mentioned at the start, and to see what effect it had for people with the yips. So we can't be 100% confident yet. More research is needed before any sort of definitive conclusions can be put forward like that, but it does give us some promising results. Secondly, how we understand the putting yips might need to change. So if you are familiar with any theory or kind of thinking around the yips, you'll probably be aware that the yips is typically thought of as an anxiety thing that then triggers the physical symptoms, right? So it usually starts with being worried about putting or worried about a particular stroke, and then the shaking or jerking or forcing of shots comes on. These findings, though, show that actually anxiety was able to decrease, anxiety was able to go down, but then putting accuracy didn't improve in the same way. Now, there's loads of reasons that could be the case, but if more and more research starts coming back to say, actually, this finding is quite consistent, then actually our theory about what the yips is and why it's here and what's maintaining it might also need to change. Special thank you to everyone who has supported this research in any way, the golf clubs and centres that helped to advertise the study, that helped to host the study, and to everyone that took part. Genuinely, thank you so much for being part of this. It's been so helpful for us from a sports psychology point of view, and we wouldn't have been able to develop our knowledge in this way if it hadn't been for you. So thanks, and I hope this has helped to reinstate some hope that we are still looking at the yips, and hopefully in time we will have a good solution for you.